Good morning. So it's Saturday and we have been working on prepping um, the foam blob, the pillars around the sliding glass door, and then also the metal rails up in the corner, because we're just about ready to cover panels for the wall and ceiling. So part of this prep work was getting some of this small fabricking areas done ahead of time. So I'm going to walk you through a few of those to show you what we did and a few adjustments that we made along the way. So to start here, we fabriced our foam blobs, and you can see the one on the passenger side. I'm sorry, the driver's side, and then we did the passenger side. We watched a lot of videos on this. I will give a shout out to ABC Rig because theirs was probably the most informative in terms of how to approach this. One of the things that they said was, if you do this, do it all once and then rip the fabric down and do it again. And in fact, it took us 3 tries to get this first pillar done the way that we felt happy with. We started with a 30 by 36 piece of fabric, where we essentially fabric the flat parts here and then worked them around the curves and up in the edge, and leaving some overhang to go behind the bulb seal. Similar for over here. This one turned out well and we got it done on the first try. Again, starting with the flat surfaces, come down here and then working around and up and under. From there, we moved on to doing pillars, which are a lot easier. You can see it's just a straight fabric down. One of the things that I did was seamed my edges, so when the wall goes in, the board will be here and you have just a nice easy seam right there. And then at the bottom, I also tried to make a seamed edge where I kind of rolled up and tucked under that with glue to make a finished edge. The floor does tub up a little bit underneath here, and then we've kind of cut it around here. We may trim this out a little bit more, but on this side, the wall will also come up and kind of hit that corner, so it'll make a nice finished edge. For the sliding door, the 3 pieces that I had to do was this piece across the top here, down along the side, and then the other pillar as well. So what we did here is I chose to do this pillar first. Also, I created my seam right here, if you can see this, with the sun, where I folded the edge, and it is kind of tucked up under the bulb seal, and then we were able to create the edge down there at the bottom. For the piece across the top, I did it in 2 parts, but I reversed it from what some of the tutorials online have showed. So I chose to do this piece up here first, and this has also a seamed edge, and it is kind of tucked up underneath the bulb seal, so it does make it kind of hidden. And we will have a board that goes across this, so it has a really nice rolled edge, and there is foam underneath this and the pillar here. The other pillars are just fabric on metal. And then here I had to think about how I wanted to do this seam, so it was either run this piece of fabric up first and then have this come over and your seam goes this way, or I flipped it. And the reason I did that is because there is a panel edge that will come up here, and then there's the panel coming across here. And so although this is not a stretch fabric, I was able to angle it and with some relief cuts get in the curve, and I made another seamed edge that is somewhat tucked underneath this bulb seal here. And when we put our board in across the top here, it's gonna, I think it will look really nice, because you'll just really only see maybe about an inch of that. So moving to the back of the van, I also fabriced the pillars back here, following ABC Rig's tutorials as well. These pillars, similar to the front, also have foam. It gives it this nice, soft, rounded edge. And again, we pulled out the bulb seal and just laid it out on the concrete so that we could work at tucking, or actually kind of cutting the fabric short, and then it's, you know, tucked in underneath this bulb seal to give it that nice edge. One of the things that I did differently here, you'll see in some of the videos online that folks will kind of stop somewhere up here on the beam in terms of making a seam and then just cover it with some fabric. I chose not to do that. What I was trying to do was be consistent with some of the other edges that I have in the front. And what I chose to do here was to cover this top pillar first. My husband did me a favor and he took off these door hinges so that I could cover that in all one fabric. And then what I chose to do on my pillars here was to cover these all in one piece of fabric, and then similar to some of my others, I created a seam edge, and this is just quite simply folded back on itself by about an inch. This marathon fabric is not very stretchable, so I really had to work to create these angles, but it can be done. The fabric is tucked up underneath this, and so I liked this finished look with the seam. You know, this van has been sitting out in the Texas heat for the last 3 months, and that adhesive has held really well, and my seam edge has also held really well, so I'm very happy with this look. And like I said, it's very consistent with the other seams that you see in the front of the van.